Good morning, everyone. My name is Jacob Harris. I'm Director for International Student Services at St. Edward's University. Today I'm joined by my colleagues David Bernay and Fernanda Garcia Ayaro. So I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is David Bernay. I'm the Director of International Admission at St. Edward's and excited to connect with you all today about the visa process.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fernanda Garcia, and I am the Assistant Director of International Admission.
All right, great. Thank you both. So today we're going to be recording this session. So I will send out a video email probably tomorrow or Friday with a link to this recording and also including the slides from this presentation so you can review this information before your visa appointment. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so everyone can see our presentation today. Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and get started. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to put your questions in the chat box and we can answer those at the end, or we should have time at the end of the presentation for you to unmute and ask your questions live. Okay, great. So let's get started here. So today we're going to be talking about how to prepare for your visa interview. So for your F1 or your J1 visa interview. And we've already done our introduction, so I'm going to move to the next slide. So for today, we're going to talk about how to apply for your visa, the visa interview process, what happens after your visa interview, some common challenges and solutions that you may face. We're going to provide you with some really great resources, and then as I mentioned, we'll have time for questions at the end. Okay, so I first want to get started with the announcement of the expanded vetting for visa applicants that was announced back in June this year. So basically, the U.S. State Department announced that they would be doing some expanded social media screening as part of the broader extreme vetting measures for visa applicants. So under this guidance, visa officials will now conduct a comprehensive and thorough vetting, including your online presence of all student and exchange visitor applicants in the F and J non-immigrant categories. To facilitate this vetting, all applicants for non-immigrant visas will be instructed to adjust the privacy settings on all of their social media profiles to public. So please note, this additional vetting requirement may also result in the initial INA 212G refusal for administrative processing to allow time for the visa official to conduct the required vetting measure. So basically what this means is the visa official may ask you to set your social media accounts to public and ask for your information about your login or not your login, I'm sorry, your handles for your social media accounts so they can review those after they've completed the visa interview. So if you apply for your visa and then you are given this INA 212G refusal for administrative processing, that does not mean that your visa was denied. It just means there's going to be additional time for the visa official to review your online presence. And from our understanding, once they complete that review of your social media accounts, they will be contacting you again about the status of your visa application. If everything looks good with the vetting, then they should move forward with approving your F or J visa. Okay, so steps to apply for your F1 or your J1 visa. So first, of course, you're gaining admission to St. Edward's and you're receiving your Form I-20 or your Form DS-2019 from our office. The I-20 is for our F1 students and the DS-2019 is for our J1 exchange students. So once you have that I-20 or DS-2019, your first step is to pay the I-901 SEVIS fee, which you can see the web address here in the slide. You'll also have access to the slides after the presentation and I send the email with the links. But basically, the SEVIS fee is $350 for F1 students and $220 for J1 students. And this is paid to the Student Exchange Visitor Program, or commonly referred to as SEVP. Also, what is your SEVIS ID number? So when you receive your I-20 or your DS-2019, you'll see in the upper right section of that document a number that starts with an N. This is your SEVIS ID number. This is what you're going to use to pay that SEVIS fee that we're talking about. You will also be asked what is the SEVIS school code or program number or for St. Edward's University. And again, you'll be able to find this information on your I-20 and your DS 2019. You can see that the school codes listed here and the program number listed here for both F1 and J1 students. Of course, if you have any questions about this, you're welcome to reach out to our office. Once you make that fee payment online at that web address you see on the screen, you will want to make sure that you print and save your receipt notice because you're going to take this receipt when you apply for your visa and when you're traveling to the US. So after you've paid your SEVIS fee, the next step is completing your DS-160. So the DS-160 is your visa application. So you're completing the non-immigrant visa application at the web address that you see on the screen here. And then once you do that, then you are required to schedule your actual visa interview appointment. So some important information to remember for visa applicants. After you've completed the DS-160, you must take these additional steps below. You complete the DS-160, and then you will be able to print and keep the DS-160 barcode. You will want to keep this for your records. You must also schedule the visa interview appointment. The U.S. Embassy or consulate does not schedule the appointment for you, so you can visit the link on the screen, which is also linked on our resources slide later, to look at the U.S. Embassy or consulate website in your specific country to find out what the specific instructions are for scheduling your actual visa interview appointment. You will also be asked to pay the visa application processing fee, and you can review country-specific instructions again on the U.S. Embassy or Consulate's website. So this is a screenshot of what the main page of the DS-160 application looks like. So it's going to ask you to verify your information and then to start an application, and then you should be able to log back into that application if needed. So when you're completing your DS-160, these are the steps that you will complete. You're going to be creating a new application. It's going to ask you to create some security questions for yourself. Then it's going to ask you to provide your personal information, your passport details, so the information found on your biographical page in your passport, passport number, issuance date, expiration date, things like that. You're also going to want to fill in your family information, so information about your parents, siblings, things like that. And then finally, you also want to provide educational details. So where you attended high school, if you've already attended some college or university classes as well. And then you also want to answer some very important security questions. So some of these can be very lengthy, but you just want to answer these questions as honestly as possible. And then it's going to ask for your specific information depending on the type of visa that you're applying for. So for F1 students, you'll be applying for the F1 visa for probably 4 to 2 years, depending on your program. And for our J1 students, you'll likely be applying for your visa for 1 or 2 semesters, depending on how long you'll be attending St. Edward's. And then you'll have a chance to review the information you provided for your DS-160. Once you've confirmed all the information is correct, it's going to ask you to sign and submit your application. So the documents that you need when you're filling out your DS-160 would be your passport, recent photographs needed to create your visa, and then also, of course, your Form I-20 or your Form DS-2019 if you're a J1. So once you've completed the DS-160, the next step would be scheduling your visa interview appointment. So you've submitted the DS-160. You now want to visit the NIV appointment system website, which is linked below. You want to have that DS-160 online application ready, and also that barcode that I mentioned previously, because it's going to ask for specific information that you provided during your while completing the DS-160. If your country is not listed on this website where you can use the NIV appointment system, then we encourage you to visit the embassy website where you can find the specific embassy or consulate in your country or nearest to your country to find the specific instructions to scheduling a visa appointment at that specific embassy or consulate. Most embassy and consulates have different steps to schedule the appointment. So if you don't see your nearest consulate or embassy in the NIV appointment system, you can contact them directly to learn how you schedule that appointment. You'll also be paying a visa interview fee of $185. You'll just want to follow the instructions on your website for your local U.S. embassy and consulate. If prepaying, be sure to take your receipt or confirmation of your visa appointment when you attend the interview. Okay, so if you do have any trouble scheduling your appointment, what we would recommend is scheduling the earliest appointment available. So if you're arriving here for the spring semester, which begins January 12th, and you do not see an earlier appointment than, say January 1st or so, then we would recommend scheduling the earliest possible appointment that you do see. And then once you've scheduled that appointment, you would have the option to request an emergency or expedited appointment to hopefully get an earlier appointment so you can attend St. Edward's in the spring semester as planned. So each consular office has their own process and procedure for requesting the expedited appointment. And in some cases, this can be done online, or in other cases, the student will need to contact the consulate directly. If you have any questions about scheduling an expedited appointment, you're welcome to reach out to our office and we can provide you some specific details depending on where you'll be applying on how you would make that request. And you can also visit the U.S. Department of State website to learn about the visa appointment wait times in your country. This is not always the most up-to-date information, but it's a good starting point so you know how long in advance you should plan to schedule that visa appointment so you can arrive in time to attend the spring semester. And finally, these are the documents that you're going to want to collect and have with you when you attend your visa interview. Of course, you'll need your passport. You'll need that DS-160 confirmation page that I previously mentioned. Your Form I-20 if you're an F1 student, and your Form DS-2019 if you're J1 student. You want to make sure that you've printed this document and that you've signed it on page 1. You'll also want that SEVIS I-901 receipt. Two passport size photographs, which they will use to create your visa. You also want to have university and financial proofs. So, of course, your admission letter showing that you've been admitted to St. Edward's. And then also proof of financial support. So just like you had to show to our office to receive your I-20 or DS-2019, you'll also want to provide that documentation to the visa interviewer. Basically, our certificate of finance form, any scholarship award letters, and of course, any bank statements or bank letters showing personal or sponsor funds. And then, of course, personal documents. So when you're applying for a non-immigrant visa, it's important to prove to the visa officer that your intention is to return home after completing your degree or your exchange semester. So you also want to provide proof of ties to your home country. This could be documentation showing that your family still lives in your home country, you or your family own a home, a land, business, something like that, or possibly that you have job opportunities available to you after receiving your degree in the U.S. You'll also want to carry your transcripts and/or standardized test scores. And then if you've ever had a U.S. visa issued in the past, you'll want to have documentation to verify that information as well. So even if you had been issued a tourist or a visitor's visa in the past, be sure that you carry that documentation with you. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague David to talk about preparing for your interview.
All right, thanks so much, Jacob. So after all of that, those logistical, steps to get your interview, today's the day. You're going to go to the embassy. You're going to meet with a consular officer and have a short interview. So it's important to understand the purpose of the interview. Of course, your whole purpose here is to demonstrate your intent to study in the U.S., but to return home. Because the number one reason that visas are refused is because the consular officer believes that the student is intending to immigrate to that country or to the US. So it's really important to, as Jacob mentions, demonstrate ties to your home country, and there's a number of ways you can do that. But in the next few slides, we're going to help prepare you to understand some of the commonly asked questions that you'll get in these interviews. And the most important thing is to be honest, honestly. It's so important to just be yourself. But at the same time, you want to also practice your responses and be ready to answer any of the questions that the consular officer has for you. So as we are suggesting here, you want to be brief, concise, and you want to be prepared for this process. Next slide. All right. So one of the biggest, I would say, surprises that I hear about from students is that they assume that this interview is going to be quite long, and it's really not. So the typical interview length is around 2 to 5 minutes. Most of them are 2 to 3 minutes on average. You may be in a long queue of students or other applicants who are applying for various types of visas. You may even overhear conversations of the consular officer in front of you with those people. But just know that your interview is going to be specific to your own situation as a F1 or J1 applicant. And you need to be prepared to provide answers to any questions that the consular officer has. The typical questions are going to be related to your study plans, why you chose your university, your academic preparedness, your financial status, and your plans after you graduate. It's always important to make sure that you are dressed formally and that you kind of have your best self showing up to this interview and that you are arriving on time as well. Next slide. So, very, very common questions that we hear about from consular officers. Why do you want to study in the US? What are you planning to study? Have you ever been to the US before? Why did you choose St. Edward's? Now, it's important to note that the consular officer has answers to some of these questions already. For example, they know all of your travel history to the US and oftentimes to other countries too. They have all of your history in terms of your visa application status from previous attempts. So it's important. Don't contradict that history. Be as honest as possible with the consular officer. And know information about St. Edward's. Do all your research about St. Edward's. Make sure you have a good story to tell them about why you chose to study with us specifically. And it's often helpful if you can tie it to the major that you're interested in studying, especially if St. Edward's has a really strong major in that area and that you want to work on. You want to bring your skills back to your home country to improve your home country. That's typically a great way to talk about it. Next slide. So in terms of academic history, you may be asked what your test scores are, about your English proficiency. It's important, as Jacob mentioned, to have your high school transcripts with you that indicate your grades. It's rare to be asked, how you're going to manage the cultural and educational differences in the U.S., but be prepared to answer that. Obviously, as someone who's interested in coming to the U.S., your goal is to learn about other cultures, to integrate yourself into the US educational system and really immerse yourself in the experience. And that's how I would approach it. Next slide. Now, there's going to be some financial questions, of course. In order to qualify for your I-20, you need to submit the bank documents. So you'll want to have that bank information with you. One of the most common questions we get is who is sponsoring you. So if it's not a direct relative like your parent, you'll want to have a good reason for why your parents are not supporting you and why someone else is supporting you. This is sometimes cause for concern among consular officers, just because you want to really demonstrate your connection, your close connection to your sponsor. And you'll want to know a lot of information about your sponsor. They are concerned that sometimes students are submitting fraudulent bank documents or sponsors that don't really exist. So you'll want to make sure that you are truthful and are able to explain your relationship to your sponsor. And then be truthful about your plans on working while you're studying in the US. You can mention that you're eligible to work on campus at St. Edward's because all international students can work on campus, and that you're not going to be working off campus because that's not allowed for your visa. But there are opportunities for students to do internships while they're in the US as a part of your visa plan. So that's something that you can do through St. Edward's. Of course, all the scholarships that you've received are going to be explained on your acceptance letter, which you should bring with you, as well as emails that we provided you about your financial aid results. So if you'd like to bring that information with you as well to prove that you've received scholarships and aid, you can do that. Next slide. And of course, the final category are these post-grad questions. So what are you going to do when you graduate? What are your plans? Now, many of you may think that you want to stay in the US to continue and maybe continue working through OPT, which is an absolute, you're eligible to do that through your visa. However, the consular officer really wants to know that you're intending to return to your home country. And oftentimes, like I mentioned before, it's really helpful to tie what you're learning at St. Edward's to your goals in your home country after graduation. So I'm coming to St. Edward's to learn about computer science, and then I'm planning to go back to my home country to help improve the computer science industry and where I live, whatever that is. So how will a degree from the US help you with your career goals, right? So make sure you have a good story there in terms of how you plan on using the skills that you're learning in the US back home when you return. Okay, so these are the potential outcomes for the interview process. You could be approved. That is a notification process. You'll be typically notified within a week of your interview, and they'll ask you to come back to the embassy within about 7 to 10 business days to collect your passport, and you may also be required to pay a visa issuance fee. The other option is administrative processing. This is what Jacob mentioned earlier, INA 221G. That's really so that really is more of they need additional time to review this information in the system. So, for example, they may need additional time to review your social media accounts. As Jacob mentioned, it's important to make sure that those accounts are public so that the consular officer can review that information. And we've actually seen a number of students in the last couple of months who've received an administrative processing notification after their interview. And then within a few days, they received notification from the consulate that they've been approved. So there may be a slight delay of a few days after your interview before you receive the approval. And then the final option or category is a refusal or denial. You may be denied based on the fact that the officer may not have all of the information required to make the determination, or for various reasons, which we'll go over in the next slide, I think. So go ahead, Jacob. I want to see. I think the next slide is about the common visa denials. Here we go. The most common one that we see is actually the second one listed here, which is did not establish eligibility for the visa category. And that's 214B. And that's because the consular officer is concerned or suspicious that you are trying to immigrate to the United States. And so that's why it's so important to demonstrate to the consular officer that you are going to go back to your home country upon graduation and that you plan on a career in your home country and that you do not plan on staying in the US. So that's really, really important that you can demonstrate that to the consular officer. Of course, as we mentioned before, 221G is the first one that's listed here in case the officer may need additional information, or didn't have enough information to make a determination. And there may be additional reasons for denial. The ones that are listed on the bottom sort of half of the screen are really more rare. I don't think I've seen these in recent years, but it's possible. Either that if you overstayed a previous visa or you misrepresented facts in your application, you may be denied on those reasons as well. Next slide. All right. If you are denied for a visa, you will have the opportunity to apply again. But just note that you will have to repay the SEVIS fees. So you have to do another round of SEVIS fees. And the consular officer who reviews your second application already has information about your first attempt. So you'll really want to be as forthright as possible and saying, okay, here's what's different from the last time that I came to connect with you. If this is your second attempt. So what's different in the few months between the last attempt for a visa? What's changed and how am I going to move forward differently? So there are some options here. You may need to, like I said before, demonstrate your ties to your home country in a number of ways. And it's important to note that if you are denied a visa, it may affect your future applications. So sometimes it's possible that students can get a visa on a second attempt, but oftentimes we see that students are denied as well. Jacob, do you have any additional comments about this?
Yes, it's just as David said, it's very important to prepare and learn why you were denied on the previous attempt, so you can prepare documentation and answers on your second attempt to basically explain, why you felt like you were denied on the previous reason and what you've done to correct that and provide additional evidence why you should be approved.
Perfect. I think, great. Was this one you or me, Jacob?
I'm happy to take it, David.
Sure.
So important, if your visa is denied, we would really appreciate it if you could notify International Admissions and ISS right away. So sending an email to myself, David, Fernanda, just to let us know that you were denied. And that way we can work with you to possibly reapply for your visa if you have additional time to do that before the spring semester begins. Or if that's not a possibility, you can work with David and Fernanda to request a deferral of your admission to the next available semester, and they can assist you with deferring to fall of 2026. Once your admission has been deferred, then our office will be reaching out to you with instructions on how to request that deferred I-20 or possibly DS 2019 for our J1 students. Basically, we might just need more recent financial documents from you in order to update your I-20 for a future semester. And then we would be sending you that updated I-20 or DS 2019 to use for that second visa application. So as we mentioned at the beginning, I want to provide some resources for our students. So the U.S. Department of State website, this is the great website where you can find information about the student visa or the exchange visa. So I encourage all students to look at this. We also have the U.S. Consular Affairs website for checking visa wait times for non-immigrant visa interview appointments. As I mentioned earlier, this is not always the most up-to-date website, so do look at this website. But if you have any questions about the wait times, you are also welcome to contact that consulate or embassy specifically to learn about wait times. Also, the usembassy.gov website. This is where you're able to locate that U.S. embassy or consulate that's in your home country or neighboring country if you do not have a consulate in your country. Also, Education USA. So this is a U.S. Department of State network of over 430 international student advising centers in more than 175 countries and territories across the world. These services offer a wide range of in-person and virtual services for students and their families based on your 5 steps to the U.S. study guide. This is a really great guide to use to plan for the visa interview, how to answer those questions that David mentioned earlier, and just really prepare for the actual interview by attending maybe a mock interview. And then sometimes they even have advising centers located in your country. So if you're available, you're able to attend those in person. So as I mentioned, Education USA, this is a screenshot of what their website looks like. So you can click that option that says Finding Advising Center, and that will let you know if there is a in-person advising option center for you available in your country. But if not, they do have great online resources. They have videos and tutorials on there that we would encourage you to use to plan and prepare for your actual visa interview appointment. And beyond Education USA, you can also look online for, there's some tutorials you can find on YouTube. You can also reach out to friends or families who may have applied for similar visas in the past to learn what their experiences were. And you can also, of course, reach out to our office and International Admissions if you have any specific questions about your visa interview before the appointment. And real quick, I would like to highlight a new program that we just launched in fall of this year. This is our International Student Connection Program. This is a great way for our incoming students to be connected with current international students here on the Hilltop. And this would be a way for you to touch base with a peer and learn what their experiences were traveling to the U.S., attending St. Edward's as an F1 or a J1 student, asking questions like, what you prepared for to travel to the U.S., what you needed after you arrive. And it also is an opportunity for you to build some friendships and feel part of our community. So you'll be receiving an email from our office later today with information about how to sign up for this. So we do encourage you to review that email, and if you're interested, follow the steps to sign up. And before the January semester begins, we will be reaching out to you with a match with one of our current students, so you can reach out to them, through WhatsApp or email, and then hopefully connect with them in person once you arrive on the Hilltop in January. And then I also want to advertise our next webinar, which will be our pre-arrival webinar that will be hosted on Monday, December 1st. And email invitations will be coming soon, likely this week or next week. And this is beyond the visa interview process. We're going to be talking about what you should prepare for travel to the U.S., what to do after you arrive on campus, and then talking about your requirements after you've arrived. So checking in with our office, attending orientation, move-in, things like that. So this is a very helpful webinar that we hope that you're able to attend. And again, we do record these webinars. So we'll be sending out the recording for that webinar after it takes place if you're unable to attend for any reason. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we are recording this webinar today, and I'll be sending an email before the end of the week with a link to this recording and attaching the slides for you to review and click the links if needed. I believe that is our last slide, so we are happy to answer any questions. If you would like to unmute yourself and ask them live or type those into the chat box.
One thing I wanted to mention as well is that there are so many resources online. If you haven't done some searching already, especially on YouTube, there are quite a few videos where there are former consular officers talking about the experience and giving tips and advice to students who are researching the process. So try to find those as well because I think it's sometimes really nice and helpful to hear from the officers who have experience over many years of issuing visas. So another tip for you.
That's great. Thank you, David. All right, so any of our students, do you have any questions? Would you like to come off of mute and ask your questions live? All right, looks like we have a question in the chat. Thank you so much for talking with us. Personally, I have more questions regarding other things like accommodation. Do you
Maria
have any?
Andre, no, I just want to say you're welcome to reach out to us individually about your questions about accommodations. We're going to cover a lot of those in the next webinar that we do on December 1st. But in the meantime, as a reminder, all of you have access to the Hill Start process through your admission portal. And that's the place where you will sign up for housing, submit your academic interest to your success coach, submit your vaccine information, all of that, those next steps before you arrive. And if you have any questions about that process, you're always welcome to reach out to us directly and we'll help you with it.
Okay, yeah, it looks like we have another question here. If someone had a previous refusal for a small mistake like a slip of tongue, what is the best way to explain it clearly this time?
I would just be honest. And if the consular officer asks you a similar question, make sure that you correct the mistake that you made last time. Often, and I'm not sure if this is the case, but I remember students saying they were asked, how much money their parents made, right? And if you make a mistake, will you be refused for that? Just make sure you have as much information as you can going into the interview. And if because where you slipped up last time, make sure you have the correct information and just share it. That's really all that you can do is be honest.
All right, did anyone else have additional questions?
If not, you're still welcome to reach out to us individually. Like I mentioned before, we're here to help you every step of the way, either Jacob or myself. Jacob is working on all visa-related issues, and then Fernanda and I can assist you with a lot of the pre-arrival steps, like signing up for your room and registering for classes. But just note that everyone has received an invitation to what we call Hill Start, which is a series of next steps for you to do and accomplish before you arrive. And if you have questions, just send us a message about it. We'll help you out.
Great, thank you, David. And then as we mentioned earlier, if you're denied your visa for any reason, please notify us. But of course, if you're approved, we also want to hear that great news as well. So please reach out to us and International Admissions to let us know that you were approved and we can expect you on the Hilltop in January. So I'm not seeing any more questions, so we'll go ahead and end the presentation. But as David mentioned, you are welcome to reach out to both his team and ISS if you have additional questions about the interview process, what to expect for your first semester. But we do hope that you're able to attend our next webinar on December 1st. So you'll be receiving an email invitation about that. And then one final reminder that I'll be sending out an email with a link to this recording and the slides for you to review. Well, thank you again for everyone for attending. We hope that you are successful in all of your visa interviews, and please feel free to reach out if you have questions.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.